So, what is an extreme miracle or a true miracle? It is simply exceeding the limits of probability. What do I mean by that? For instance, probability, a part of the scientific discipline of mathematics, shows that even the simplest life forms could never form accidentally, and certainly not in just a few billion years. That is how long the Earth has supposedly existed. What are the chances that chemicals would come together and accidentally form life if chemical arrangement was all that was necessary? This would include the proper order of chemicals to form amino acids, proteins, DNA, etc., etc. And then for all of them to be joined together in just the right order to produce a single living cell. R.L. Weisong, in the Creation Evolution Controversy, page 117, says estimates by top mathematicians admit that those chances are 1 out of 10 to the 167,000th power. That is a 1 with 167,000 zeros after it. That book was written almost 5 decades ago, and knowledge of the complexity of a living cell has become much more evident since then. Anything on Earth with a natural chance of 1 out of 10 to the 70th power, in other words, a 1 with just 70 zeros behind it, is considered impossible to ever happen. So how do scientists use math to figure the probability of something taking place? If you are trying to figure the probability of one object being chosen and there is only one choice, A, being picked, then the probability of A being chosen is 1 out of 1, or 100%. Now, what if there were two choices, A and B, and they had to be picked in a specific order? A first and then B, or AB. Then the possibilities are AB and BA, or 1 chance out of 2 that the order would be correct. That is 1 chance in 1 times 2, since there are only 2 choices available. If the result of 3 choices was required to be in a specific order, say A first, B second, and then C third, or ABC, then the possibilities are ABC, ACB, BCA, BAC, CAB, or CBA. The probability is 1 chance in 6, or 1 times 2 times 3, that the 3 objects would be in the correct order of A, then B, then C. If there were just 10 elements that must be in order, the probability that those elements would accidentally be arranged in a specific order, that is 1 chance in over 2 million, which is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4, and so on up to 10. But just one protein has a large number of parts, that is, amino acids, that must be arranged in an exact order to be useful, and shaped in a very specific shape. A simple protein has about 400 parts. The probability of those 400 elements accidentally coming together would be 1 chance in 10 to the 450th power. And that is just one protein, an extremely small part of a living cell. So mathematically, even the simplest protein could never just come together accidentally, even in tens of billions of years. Not once. And the Earth's age is supposedly only 4.6 billion years old. But it gets much worse. All of the parts of a living cell would have to form individually and then be combined together perfectly at the very same time in order for even one cell to be formed. To get an understanding of the impossibility of a cell ever coming together accidentally, there's more of a chance of being blindfolded and picking one marked electron in our entire universe over 2,000 times in a row than a cell ever forming accidentally, even once. The more we discover about life, the more impossible accidental formation of a cell becomes. Professor Harold Merowitz, in his writing on energy flow in biology, stated, quote, "The probability for the chance of formation of the smallest, simplest form of living organism known is 1 to 10 to the 340 millionth power," end of quote. The size of this figure is truly staggering, since there are only supposed to be approximately 10 to the 80th power electrons in the whole universe. Another way to look at these odds is to consider every piece of sand on Earth, approximately 7,500 billion. Now imagine that you had to pick out a single marked piece of sand anywhere on Earth while being blindfolded on your very first try. Now imagine having to do this over 1,000,000 times in a row without one miss. The odds of doing this are billions of times greater than the simplest life forms, such as an E. coli bacteria, ever forming accidentally. With these kinds of odds, life could never be formed accidentally in trillions of years, much less a few billion. An incredible miracle is needed. The beginning of life, that is, the formation of the first living cell or form of life, is referred to as abiogenesis. I have noticed that rarely does any evolutionist ever try to explain abiogenesis in depth. Why? Because so far there has never been any kind of good scientific explanation for it. Evolutionists often assume that it occurred without any science at this point to support it. This event of accidental life formation would be the greatest miracle of all.